Hi, this is George Owen, and this is a story of my mother, Florence Hope Owen. I call her the Renaissance woman because she could do so many different things. These pictures are taken of Grandpa and Grandma photo album. A couple in love, I call it. It's a picture of my grandpa, aka Ted Mitchell, and Carrie Crabtree Mitchell, grandmother and grandfather. What happens when you're in love? Bam! First picture of Mom, born January 1906. A few years later, boom, boom, boom. This picture is on the back porch of their house in Bakersfield. Mom is behind her dad. He is holding Harold. Left to right is Emmett, Merle. We're spanning the years between 1910 and 1912, or even later. The Mitchell tribe eating watermelon. Left to right, Mom, Harold, Merle, Emmett. Note the bare feet. Shoes are expensive. The Mitchell kids, Harold, Emmett, Merle, and Florence. On the back porch, Merle, Mom, and Harold is a baby sitting on the floor. I said, "Hi kids," snap, they took a picture. Family portrait. Mom, Grandma, Emmett, Harold, Merle. A very good looking family. Another family picture. Everybody all dressed up and looking so stiff. Poor boys. The group Mitchell family and Lena's two boys, cousins. Mom, Merle, Emmett, Harold, and the two boys, Ken and Ira Van Dusen. This picture is taken in Lindsay. Left to right is Harold, Mom, Ken, and Ira. The year, I'm not sure. Mom is a young girl here. The family outing. Left to right, Merle, Emmett, Florence, Harold, and Grandpa. Grandma taking the pictures. She didn't like her picture taken. Mom, a young lady with Mrs. Williamson, who's a cousin, and Aunt Lena, a family picture. This is 1920 to 1930. These pictures are showing Mom growing up in this period of time, for a young girl to getting married and becoming a mom. Family picture, early 1920s. Left to right is Harold, the Van Dusen boys, Ken and Ira. Mom, her grandmother, Timpy Crabtree, and then Lena. Another family picture, early 20s. Left to right, Grandma, Crabtree, Lena, Mom, Myrtle. She's the daughter of Hope Crabtree, Lena's sister. Her husband, Earl Williamson, and my grandmother, Harry Mitchell, and the kid on top, the whole pack there is Jack Williamson, the son of Vernal and Earl Williamson. The little girl is their daughter. another family picture taken in Bakersfield, left to right, Mom, and a dress she sewed, and I'm not sure of that one. And then my grandmother, Carrie, not sure again, not sure, and then my grandmother, Crabtree. You know something, people? After I'm gone, who's going to know these people? Nobody. Mom showing off another dress she created. He was about 15 years old here. Left to right, Mom is dressed in a dress she made. Not sure of what grandmother Carrie and Aunt Dell and her daughter. Aunt Dell was the wife of Merle Crabtree, for those that don't know. Mom and a friend, Alice. She's about 15 in this picture. Picture taken in front of Lena's house, left to right. Ken, Lena, Mom. This was taken in Lizzie. Picture taken in the old Crabtree swimming hole. Called that because it was almost in the Crabtree's backyard. At the time, it had a deep pool, and nice rocks to slide off on, and a dead tree you could climb up on and dive off of it. Mom did that one time. I watched her. You had to dive out far enough so that you didn't hit a rock that was submerged in the water. I like these rocks because you can slide off of them like a crocodile or alligator. As kids, when we visited Lena, we spent a lot of time here because of the hot summer. I learned to swim here also. It is now private property. A home is right next to it. Ladies on the rock at the old swimming hole. Aunt Dell, Grandma Mitchell, and Mom. Mom waiting for Earl to arrive. She's thinking about Earl. Mom has a date with Earl, my dad, and is waiting for him in a dress she made. Ah, here he is. He just arrived on a bicycle. See what I can do. Earl acting goofy. Here's your bike. You can go home if you're going to keep showing off. Sit, Mom said, and sit he did. Okay, he's well behaved. I said, and sit he did. Maybe I should keep him. Besides, he's a handsome dude. My dad was quite an outdoorsman. I think this was one of the reasons she liked him. As a kid, he and two others with a burro hiked up the Kern River Canyon to Mount Whitney. He was about 15 years old when he did this. He did it twice, 2 years in a row. The following pictures show him taking Mom and her brothers, of course, up Mount Fraser for an outing. You can see how steep the hill was. They looked like they was climbing straight up, and the backpacks were in a roll up in something and put over one shoulder. The next picture on that is Mom showing how she could shoot. My dad had a gun collection. When he got married, he got rid of all the guns. And the last picture shows all of them at the cabin. Earl, the tough guy. And then Earl in the swimsuit is a young man. Dad is a young man working on the railroad. These pictures show Dad, the proud father, holding Billy. This was taken in 1925. Mom holding Billy. Uncle Merle holding Billy. This is all in 1925. Billy was a baby. About a year or so later, Mom with Eldine, her niece, and Billy. By this time, they must have known something wasn't right. Billy and Mom and Eldine. Eldine is about 2.5 years old. Billy, 12 months, 15 months. Mom at the beach, early 30s. Note the cars, how old they are. Mom said, "Hey, look what I can do." Late 20s, 1929. Guess what happened? Mom had an accident. She had me. I say accident because she didn't want any more kids after Billy. We are sitting on the porch of my grandparents' house on Chaucer Street. Where did that hat come from? Grandparents' house on Chaucer Street. Me kneeling beside my brother, and I say, "How come he can't play with me?" You can see how my brother looked then. He was about 4 years old here. We're going on 5. Mom took care of him for 18 years. He was 24/7 with cloth diapers, not disposable in those days. He had no control on anything. Baby pictures of me. George at the beach with a dog. George posed on a bench. Isn't he cute? Boy, what a hot rod. Doug driving, me behind, Genevieve in the background. My Uncle Merle made this for us. This was taken in 1932. This is 1938 to 1940. Mom and her two kids, Doug and Bob, holding pet rabbits that we got for Easter one time. Guess where they ended up? After a year, they were rabbit stew. Mom posing in a dress she made, of course. Well, this is taken in our backyard. Two little pictures of Mom posing in one of these picture booths with hats on. In the late 30s, we went on a trip with Dad and Mojave to Owens Valley. It was called Owino. That's in just below Big Pine. My mother loved it up there. She actually wanted to move. We went on a train trip on this here, and it was called the Jawbone Run because we went by Jawbone Canyon. It was something that Dad once in a while would pick up and he would do, but it wasn't a steady thing that he did. But Mom liked the views from there and the mountains, desert on one side and the Sierras on the other side, the west, and Mount Whitney. This picture was around 43 to 45. Some guy came around and asked, "Would you like a family portrait taken?" And Mom got suckered into it. It's the family portrait that's kind of stiff looking. This was taken at Three Rivers on the Kaweah River. 1943, we was up at Lindsay visiting. Mom is sitting on the dam. This dam diverted water in different canals for irrigation below Three Rivers, town of Three Rivers. George and his big catch of fish, 14 years old. One time I rode my bike from Lindsay to here and stayed overnight. I felt safe. I wouldn't feel safe today though. Death Valley trip. Loading up our camping stuff on top of our 1939 Ford. All loaded. Ready to go. Dad, me, Grandpa Mitchell, Grandma, Mom, and Bob and Dad. Another shot right to left. Almost the same thing. The whole family and two other families. We was with two other groups. We had 3 cars total, not counting my grandparents. They came over to see us from Trona. Trona is a hop, skip, and jump from Death Valley. We were out there rock hunting. This whole group of people were rock hounds. Badwater. Me and Harry, he's one of the other families. Us at Furnace Creek. Old Borax wheels. Another picture, all of us sitting on a curb at Death Valley Junction having lunch. This place was a ghost town at the time, not anymore. Mom sitting on the ground after camping all night. I think she was putting on makeup. It shows a onyx rock, and it says rock hounds on it. And then there's two little figures that Mom made depicting rock hounds. And this was at a rock show. We belonged to two rock clubs. One of them, the first ones we formed it, and the other one had been around for a while. Mom with Oscar and Lena, aunt and uncle. (1952). Mom and Lena camping on the Mountaineer Creek. Oops! Did she slip? Look at Mom's face. She was surprised, but she was having fun. Mom with her two sons in uniform, 1951. Mom and Dad fishing on the Mountaineer Creek, 1951. Mom trying to catch something out of the little creek. I bet you she had luck too. Two tired backpackers, Mom and Bob, on Peppermint Creek. You can see the backpacks in the background. Mom holding a whole bunch of fish. Can Mom fish? Oh yeah. Guess what's for supper? Mom and cousin Vernal, Peppermint Creek, 1951.
Don't keep me in the dark, bright eyes. Bring sunshine to my heart, bright eyes.
Mom smiling. Mom sitting on the grass. Mom in the Indian bathtubs. Mom with Deb left, Judy right. Mom fishing again. Mom and Dad someplace in the mountains on the road. Mom posed in the backyard. In the early 50s, Dad got hooked into investing in oil adventures through Uncle Doc. Uncle Doc was the oldest boy of the Crabtree tribe. This picture shows a well off of Huntington Drive, or Boulevard. This area is the way it looked like then, in 53. No buildings around, no houses. Now, there's a bowling alley in that same spot. Is the big rig with Mom posing. Mom, Lena, and Oscar. Mom and Oscar. A fond farewell. Oscar and Lena always stood in the driveway and waved at us as we was backing out or driving. Birthday picture of Grandma Owen, her 90th birthday. Left to right, me and my wife Lydia, and our 3 kids. And then there's Grandma Owen. And back of Grandma Owen is Bob. And then there's Dad and Mom. And below Dad and Mom is Doug and Claire in front. This was taken in 1955. Mom and Dad on the front porch. Mom and Dad on the river, kind of snuggling up to each other. My dad's and mother's anniversary dinner. This was their 45th anniversary. I'm glad we did it because my dad died a year later. Now we jump back in the years. We jump back to the 30s, the 1930s. We're into Mom's art. Mom's art spans from the 30s till she died. The last thing she was doing was making baskets out of pine needles. Her real sculpturing was my head. That was done in 1939. I was 10 years old. In a half hour, she had my face looking at me. She did other statues, mostly nudes, taken from live models. The girl standing was one of them. It was done in a night class. The other one with the girl sitting was another live model. And my mother put that together. It's got a plastic or lucite base on it. It also has a column going on it that's plastic, and she didn't like that because it was not all natural, like wood and then clay, you know. She stopped making much there in the mid-40s and then probably early 50s, but she got into these figurines. What started it was she wanted to go to night school at SC. They was giving a lessons in dressing dolls. She needed $70 to go to SC. I gave her $70 that I had been making working for my Uncle Harold in the garage. And she used that money to go. So I'm glad I helped her out there like that. This was a trade secret. This guy coming back, his name was Glenn Lukens, still remember the name. And she took the course and she showed how to do this. The key word here is slip. What is slip? It is liquid clay. You dip cloth in it and you pick it out, and then you can use that cloth and dress, and when you fire it, it disappears inside the clay. And then you paint them, and then it looks like, you know, they're really wearing clothes. She got into this full throttle. She started teaching classes. She had classes in her backyard and in her house. She also was teaching an adult night school. And she had hundreds of these figurines that she made. The funniest one of these that she made that was shown earlier was the Gypsy. And she got Best of Show for the Gypsy in Chicago. And this here is a work of art, nothing like it. It actually ought to be in some museum someplace. I'm going to be kind of bold and say the Smithsonian. I've been in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. I did not see any work as fine as this. She got into her older art, that is painting. Some of her pictures. A still painting with a copper pot. Big Osher painting. The two artists is Aunt Lena and Mom. Mom showing a group something. Mom the artist, painting. Mom looking working in the field. Selling art in Bakersfield. Mom relaxing. Mom taking a breather. A display of some of her art. She belonged to the Bakersfield Art Society, and she also belonged to Palm Springs Art Society. All this, of course, was after my dad had died. After she moved up to Mariposa, she got into stained glass. I have two of them, and here they are. She did many more, of course. This was in the early 70s, 1970. Mom, my Renaissance mother, by George Owen. What a person she was, so full of life. She always had a smile on her face. She was so full of passion about things, loved life. I can still hear her squeal at fun things she was trying to accomplish, like the time she was skiing down an icy road at General Grant Park in the 40s on ice, and again in the 70s in her mountain backyard skiing. She had so many talents that she could pass them out to a dozen people and still have some left over. I heard her say one time, she was in her 60s at this time, that she wished she could be 6 people so that she could get everything done in a lifetime that she wanted to do. Had she done everything she wanted at that time, I'm sure that she would have had 6 more projects she wanted to do. I believe she has passed this curse on to me and her sons, for we both get into projects and hobbies, and after satisfying the craving, we go on to something else. It's a curse. Foremost, she was a sculptress, an artist par none. She won national acclaim for her figurines. She took a lump of clay and sculptured my head out of it, 30 minutes. Her comment was, "I don't know how I do it, it's just my hands talking to me." She painted and sold numerous oil paintings and other mediums. She liked to express herself in art. She taught art classes. She taught at the Barnesdale Art Center for the Los Angeles Recreation Department. She had a ceramic shop in her backyard where she passed on the secrets she had learned working with slip, liquid clay, mold making, and china painting. Most of her talents were self-taught and came natural to her, like it does to a few exceptional talent people. She took up lapidary, the art of polishing rocks, when I was interested in it. This was in the 1944-45 at the time. There wasn't any lapidary clubs in Los Angeles, so with some rock hounds and friends of ours, we started the Glendale Lapidary Society. From polishing rocks, she got into jewelry making, working up some fine pieces of jewelry. She also got into faceting, another art of polishing rocks using a French machine. The following are some of the hobbies she was in, not chronicle order: leathercraft, Indian bead making, then later on bead making and glass cutting, bowl cutting bottles, firing rings, whole bottles into ashtrays, stained glass, enameling, firing glass into metal, woodworking, night school. When she get off, she got down there and she made like a coffee table and a tray that come off of it. I don't know how she found the time or was able to get away from home, having a crippled child to take care of, but somehow she did. The last years of her life was making baskets, weaving them out of pine needles, Indian style. In some of them she incorporated little pieces of turquoise. I have one. She might not have been those 6 she wished she could have been, but she sure made a good impression of them. She also sewed most of her clothes while she was young, and all of her clothes most of her life. Can't was not her vocabulary. One time she wanted to change our living room and dining room. They were divided with 2 partitions. She tore them out, tore the columns out, and made it one big room. Now this woman wanted to change things around, look out. My poor dad didn't know what to expect the next time he came home from a run on the railroad. He would go away 2 or 3 days, and when he got back home, the house was all demolished up or something going on. He would get aggravated a little, but he knew it did no good, and he would just give in. From time to time, he might ask, "When is this going to be done?" I can't remember him offering to help one time, other than giving advice, and she didn't like to be told because he didn't know what he was talking about. He was a good supervisor for my mother, but my mother, I'm sure, was glad he didn't help, for he had no knowledge of any construction or working with his hands with anything. He was just a railroad man, period. He could bend the rod down on the toilet float to make the water quit leaking. That was about the extent of anything he did around the house. Her next project was remodeling the kitchen. This was because she got a new electric stove and she wanted to upgrade it. This was in the 30s, to make it the 30s style. And I believe her dad helped her on a little bit with this here. She did get the hang of cooking on an electric stove without burning stuff, but it took a long time to learn. She was still having problems up at Mariposa on an electric stove. We had a wash machine with a wringer on it. For all the diapers and tablecloths we had fun with this machine later on. Didn't have all the bugs written out of it. I would say the Alpha machine. They hadn't worked all the bugs out. Because of it was pegged to the floor, when it went in the spin cycle, it shook the whole house like it was an earthquake going on. She asked for help for her uncle, her brother, my Uncle Merle. He cut a 3x3 hole in the floor, made a form, and poured it full of cement. The cement block was 2 feet thick, 3x3. Then took care of the shakes. But I often wondered how long it was going to go before that tore loose from the connection to the machine. When she started remodeling the kitchen, she installed the cabinets, tiled the counter, and laid the linoleum. Quite an undertaking for a single woman with a crippled son and 3 active sons. It was at this time, whenever one of us got into it, all we heard was, "George, stop that. George," real loud. I admit that most of the time I had it coming, for I was quite a tease. But there were a lot of times that I wasn't close to my brothers and they were fighting or something. She wasn't seeing what was going on and would say, "George, stop that." And I would say, "Mom, I'm not even close to them." But I usually caught hell. While we were on the subject of name calling, one of her favorite sayings, mostly to herself, was, "Shit, fart, take a bite." I believe she picked that up from Aunt Lena. The first time I heard it was when she was making her first mold of a figurine. There were 36 pieces in this mold. It should have been just 2 or 3. We took cut-up inner tubes, they were stretchable in those days, rubber bands to hold everything together. And she put the thing together, and when she poured the slip in it, it ran out all over the place. She was frustrated in tears. She explained, "Shit, fart, take a bite." Other sayings that came to mind when she was yelling at us, "Stop that or I will snatch you all bald-headed." Or, "Quit that or I will stop this car and people will think a crazy woman got loose." We were, of course, horsing around in the back seat and she was driving. No seatbelts in those days, of course. It probably distracted her driving. I knew it did. When my brother went flying out the open door one time, remember the doors had suicide, what they're called suicide doors. They open the opposite way they do now today. The front, from the front to the back. It's a wonder she wasn't gray-headed by the time she was 40. She had her hands full of us, but we were lucky in that she couldn't keep too close a watch on us because of my brother who was crippled. When she was growing up with her 3 brothers, she was said to be a tomboy. She climbed trees, playing ball games and other things with her boys. Her and her brothers were known as the Bakersfield Tough Kids. You better not mess with them. She loved the outdoors. She went camping, even when she could. She spent at least 2 years in a row up at Balls Park for a month. I still have fond memories of that. One time she took Billy, my crippled brother, with us. The other times when she didn't have Billy, I guess my grandmother was watching after him. Anyway, that had to be an extra burden on her to have him up there, but she loved the mountain so much that she would do anything to get there. We spent, a month and a half in Balls Park. I had some childhood memories of that. I was about 10, 11 years old, and it was great. I feel the same way today. It's in our blood. One time when she was up in Balls Park, I was 5 or 6 years old, Mom decided to hike down to the Tule River. You can drive down there now because they opened it up for logging. But she collected about a half a dozen kids from the camp that wanted to do something and took off with them. She underestimated the distance and the time it would take. It was 3 miles to Shake Camp, probably 1.5 miles by trail down the steep canyon, or 6 to 9 miles to the river. We hiked till we got down to the side of the mountain, close enough to hear the river, but still miles away as far as getting to it. She looked at the shadows on the mountains and decided it was time to head back. Actually, it was too late by this time already. Then we took the wrong trail. I tried to tell her that was the wrong trail because I remember coming down this trail, a fork. She took the right fork instead of going on the left fork. And then it got dark on us. She had no flashlight. With all these kids, a woman in the dark in the mountains. And there was mountain lions around up there at that time. Somewhere in the dark, we spotted a camp light and found ourselves in Shake Camp. So we knew we were 3 miles away from Balls Park. No communication in those days, remember? 2 campers were really surprised to see us, a lone woman with 6 kids, tagging along with her in the dark and in the wilderness. They were sitting around a campfire. We talked with them a little bit. They gave us a Coleman lantern. We had light finally. They pointed the direction the park was. After we left, they were sitting there talking to each other. They says, we ought to go with them just to make sure she gets there. Wandering around in the woods in the dark. So they followed us on the same path towards Balls Park. We found our way back just as they were getting a party together to search for us. The men at Shake Camp stumbled into the camp, making sure we made it, and said on top of our shoe marks was tracks of a mountain lion. I remember I was telling Charlie and that group of kids, and I remember looking back and seeing something moving in the shadows of the light from the lantern. It was just on the edge of the light. I couldn't see what it was. Obviously, it was the lion. Mom, I remember, she made it just like it was another adventure. Always upbeat, cheerful, and so forth. No panic. I asked her in later years about that incident. She said she was afraid for us kids, but didn't once want to let us see her fear. She wanted to keep us on the upbeat, and I don't remember any of the kids crying or whimpering. She sang and whistled. Did she know there was a mountain lion out there? This was just one of the many stories like this. She was a devout Christian Scientist. She became one when Billy was born because she was looking for a miracle, for a cure for him. He was crippled at birth. Because she was in labor for 36 hours and she should have been in the hospital, not home. That's the way it was in those days. Both of my brothers were born as Christian Science midwives at home. I was born in a hospital. I was the first one to come after Billy, and she didn't want any kids, so I come along. It was over 4 years later. That was an accident. She grew up in tough times, skimped on food. I remember eating mush 3 times a day. We got by okay. This was in the 30s, in the hard times for everybody in the United States. She was quite a disciplinarian. When we were bad, and we were sometimes really bad, like running and knocking our couch over, or setting the back of the couch on fire, throwing mud at each other in the house, horsing around in the house and breaking 4 lamps just before Christmas. George! That was me. Or dropping bricks. I talked my brother in to stand below me. I climbed up onto the garage, and I'm dropping bricks on top of his head to see him break. Oh my God. They did. So when the cry of George stopped that, got louder, it was time for George and Doug, and sometimes Bobby, to go to the elderberry tree and break off a twig or a limb and bring it as a tool of a punishment. We got spanked. A small one that stung or a big one that hurt. She wasn't laid on too hard. I still hate elderberry trees today. I might add, I don't think the punishment hurt us though, mentally or otherwise. We never passed the punishment. Little Bobby didn't get punished like Doug and I did. I got the most of it, being the oldest kid. I asked her later about the facet of our lives. Did she get spanked as a kid? No. Why did we? Where did you get this idea? Well, my brothers got spanked all the time, and they didn't turn out bad. Different views, different times, so forth. Gee, a kid can't even break bricks on the head without getting into trouble. She taught me to appreciate things, seeing beauty in things where someone might not even look at how beautiful this rock or that sunset or the clouds or distant hills. She looked and saw with an artist's eye how to compose a picture, sky, land, framing, and so forth. When I looked at something beautiful with an artist's eye, today she still is with me. She was so full of life, vibrant, and joy to be around. She was a caring person, taking care of my brother for 18 years. My God. She took care of her mother when her mother got sick for almost a year. And her aunt when she was sick. She was always there helping others. If you needed help, she was there. If you needed a cute dress and you couldn't buy it, she'd make it for you. My 3 girls got dresses made all the time. Describe what they want, and she would make a pattern and make them for them. Most art objects were given away to enjoy. Unfortunately, she never signed most of them. She wasn't into signing stuff because she didn't want to be vain. Some 100 years from now, there will always be somebody known as an unknown artist. They won't know who did it because there's no name on it. She did paint her names on the paintings, but not on the statues and things. She had wings, clipped for 18 years, but grew them back. When she had them back, boy, did she fly. She was a Pollyanna, always seeing the good in people when it came to people. Not only am I going to miss her, but people who she touched one way or another will miss her all dearly. Here's to Mom. May your next life be full of this one, as this one.